Nobody in the building knew who had been paying room 3B's rent. Not the landlord. Not the neighbors who whispered when she passed with grocery bags digging red marks into her fingers. Not even Nora Whitman herself.
Get back, stay
Every
behind me.
first of the month,
No, please.
while she stood in the
Out of
kitchen
my
counting
way.
tips beneath the
I
weak
said
yellow
stay
light,
back.
trying to decide whether to pay rent or buy her daughter winter boots.
You think this ends
An
with a
envelope
bullet?
appeared in Mr. Botter, Hargrove's
Drop it
office
now.
downstairs.
This
No
L is your
return address.
legacy. Come take
No
it.
name.
Please
Just cash.
stop this.
Exact
They're
amount.
coming for us.
Always
we have
before
to get
sunrise.
out now.
For one
Please
full year.
hurry. I can't
And on
lose
the
him.
coldest night of December,
The necklace, it's all
Nora
we have
finally
left.
found out why.
Help
The
us,
snow
please.
had turned the city into something cool and quiet. The diner where she worked was almost empty, except for a truck driver asleep over his coffee and two men in expensive coats sitting in the back booth, speaking too softly
with
to
me,
be ordinary
please.
customers.
I'm here.
Nora
I'm not
noticed
leaving.
them the second
You're
they walked
hurt.
in.
I can't lose you.
Men like that
You
did
won't,
not
I
belong in
promise.
Marcy's diner.
Hold
Their
on, just
watches
hold
cost
on.
more than her car. Their shoes had never touched slush before tonight. And the taller one, the man sitting with his back to the wall, carried silence around him like a loaded gun. Black coat, dark hair, a face carved sharp enough to make people look away first. He never touched the menu. He only watched her. Nora kept her head down as she refilled coffee. She had learned a long time ago that dangerous men were not always loud. Sometimes they were quiet. Sometimes they smiled. Sometimes they remembered your name
right
when they had
behind
no
us.
reason to know
Move!
it. Table 6
I'm
needs
scared.
pie.
Don't let go.
Marcy called from behind
Stay
the
with
counter.
me.
Nora
We're getting
grabbed
out.
a plate with trembling
Extraction
fingers.
point ahead. Go.
Her shift had already gone 2 hours too long.
They're getting
And
closer.
Lily was upstairs with Mrs.
Stay with
Alvarez,
me. We're
probably
almost
asleep on
there.
the couch with her
I
stuffed
hear
rabbit
footsteps.
pressed under her chin.
Keep moving.
Nora
Don't
should
look
have been
back.
home by now, but rent was due tomorrow, or at least she thought it was. When she passed the back booth, the tall man spoke. Nora. She froze. Not waitress. Not miss. Her name. The plate slipped slightly in her hand. The man across from him smiled without warmth. She looked surprised, Matteo. Matteo. The name hit the room like thunder without sound. Even Nora knew that name. Matteo DeLuca. The man newspapers never photographed clearly. The man police pretended not to fear. The man whispered about when bodies were found near the river and witnesses suddenly forgot what they had seen. Nora forced herself to breathe. I'm sorry, she said, voice low. Do I know you? Matteo's eyes stayed on her face. Dark, still, almost angry. No. That single word unsettled her more than any threat could have. The other man leaned back, amused. She really doesn't know. Matteo's jaw tightened. Nora stepped back. I have tables. You have a daughter, Matteo said. The diner seemed to lose all sound. Nora's grip tightened around the pie plate until the ceramic edge bit into her palm. What did you say? Matteo looked toward the window, where snow dragged silver lines down the glass. 6 years old. Brown curls. Afraid of elevators. Sleeps with a white rabbit missing one ear. The plate shattered at Nora's feet. The truck driver woke with a curse. Marcy turned from the coffee machine. Every eye in the diner shifted toward the back booth. Nora didn't move. Her entire body had gone cold. Matteo rose slowly, and somehow the room became smaller. He was taller than she expected, broader, darker in presence than any rumor had made him. The man beside him reached into his coat, but Matteo lifted one hand, stopping him without looking. I'm not here to hurt her, Matteo said. Nora's laugh came out broken. Men like you don't say that unless someone is already in danger. For the first time, something changed in his eyes. Pain. So quick she almost missed it. Then the diner door opened. A blast of winter wind rushed inside. Mr. Hargrove, her landlord, stumbled in with blood on his mouth and terror in his eyes. Nora, he gasped. Run. Behind him, 3 men entered wearing black gloves and calm expressions. Matteo turned. The softness vanished from his face. The entire diner froze as one of the men pointed a gun, not at Matteo, not at the landlord, but directly at Nora. Where's the girl? The man asked. Nora stopped breathing. Matteo stepped in front of her before she even understood he had moved. His voice dropped into something deadly and intimate. You should have never said her name. And when Nora looked down, she saw Matteo's hand open around a small silver bracelet, Lily's bracelet, the one Nora had buried with her husband 6 years ago. Nora had forgotten how to move. The gun was pointed at her face. Matteo DeLuca stood between her and death, and in his hand was a bracelet that should have been buried under 6 feet of frozen earth. For one impossible second, all she could hear was the hum of the diner lights. Then Matteo spoke. "Lower it." The man with the gun smiled. He was younger than Matteo, but not young. Clean-shaven, pale eyes, a scar pulling one side of his mouth into something almost charming. "She's prettier than I expected," he said. "No wonder you hid her." Matteo did not look back at Nora. Last chance. The air changed. Nora felt it before anything happened. A pressure. A warning. The kind animals must feel before lightning strikes. The man's finger tightened on the trigger. Matteo moved. It was so fast, Nora barely understood the violence of it. One moment the gun was aimed at her. The next, Matteo had twisted the man's wrist hard enough to make bone crack. The shot fired into the ceiling. Marcy screamed. The truck driver dropped under his table. Coffee cups exploded on the counter. Matteo slammed the man face first into the booth. The other two reached for their weapons. The man who had been sitting with Matteo rose with terrifying calm and drew his gun first. "Don't," he said. One word. Both men stopped. Nora stood there, shaking, unable to tear her eyes from the silver bracelet in Matteo's hand. Lily's bracelet. No, not Lily's. Daniel's. Her dead husband's. The bracelet had been wrapped around his wrist the night they lowered his coffin into the ground. A tiny silver chain with a round charm engraved with the letter L because Daniel had bought it the day Nora told him she was pregnant. He had cried when he gave it to her. "I want her to know I loved her before I even saw her face," he had said. Nora had buried that memory because it hurt too much to keep alive. And now the most dangerous man in the city was holding it. Mr. Hargrove collapsed against the door, wheezing blood onto his coat. Nora snapped back to herself. "Hargrove." She ran toward him, but Matteo caught her arm. "Don't go near the windows. Let go of me." "Nora." The sound of her name in his mouth was not gentle. It was a command wrapped around panic. She looked up at him, and for the first time she saw something frightening beneath his control. He was afraid. Not for himself. For her. That made it worse. "Where did you get that bracelet?" she whispered. His hand closed around it. The scarred man on the booth laughed through broken teeth. "Tell her, Matteo. Tell the poor waitress why you've been playing guardian angel." Matteo's eyes went black. The man with Matteo pressed his gun harder against one attacker's chest. "Boss. Boss." The word landed between Nora's ribs. Of course he was not just Matteo DeLuca. He was the center of it. The man others obeyed without question. The man who could make a room go silent by breathing. And somehow for 1 year, he had been paying her rent. The diner door slammed shut behind the last attacker. One of Matteo's men appeared outside through the snowy glass. Then another. Black coats. Cold faces. Guns hidden beneath expensive wool. Nora had never felt more trapped. "I need to get Lily," she said. Matteo's gaze sharpened. "Where is she?" "Upstairs, with Mrs. Alvarez." He turned to the man beside him. "Enzo." Already moving, Enzo spoke into his phone. "3rd floor, apartment 3B. Child with older woman. Secure both. No visible weapons unless necessary." Nora lunged for him. "No, no, you don't get to send men after my daughter." Matteo caught her again, this time by both shoulders. His hands were warm through her diner uniform. Too steady, too strong. "Listen to me," he said quietly. "The men who came in here were not looking for you. They pointed a gun at me. They were looking for Lily." The room tilted. Nora stared at him. The diner, the blood, the snow, the shattered plate, everything blurred at the edges. Lily, her little girl who liked pancakes shaped like stars, who cried when stray cats looked cold, who asked every Christmas if Daddy could see the lights from heaven. "Why?" Nora asked. Matteo's face closed. That silence broke something inside her. "Why?" she screamed. Marcy flinched behind the counter. Mr. Hargrove lowered his head. Even the armed men by the door seemed to look away. Matteo didn't. He took the anger, let it hit him, let it burn across his face. Then he said, "Because Daniel Whitman was not who you thought he was." Nora slapped him. The crack echoed through the diner. For a heartbeat, nobody breathed. Enzo's gun shifted instinctively. Matteo lifted one finger, stopping him. Nora's palm stung. Tears burned her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. "Don't you say his name." Matteo's cheek reddened slowly. He looked down at her hand, then back at her face. I didn't come here to destroy the dead for you. You came with my dead husband's bracelet. I came because they found you." Nora shook her head. No, this is insane. Daniel worked construction. He came home with paint on his clothes and cheap beer from the corner store. He sang off-key in the shower. He couldn't lie to save his life. Matteo's expression changed again. A flicker of grief. Daniel could lie better than anyone I ever knew. The words cut so cleanly Nora almost didn't feel them at first. Then the pain spread. She stepped back from him. Outside, sirens wailed somewhere far away, but not close enough. Police never arrived on time in neighborhoods like this. And if Matteo DeLuca was here, maybe they wouldn't arrive at all. Her phone buzzed violently in her apron pocket. Nora snatched it out. Mrs. Alvarez. Her hand shook so badly she almost dropped it. "Lily?" A child's sob hit her ear. "Mommy?" Nora's knees nearly gave out. "Baby, where are you? Are you okay?" "I'm scared," Lily whispered. "There are men outside the door." Nora's eyes flew to Matteo. His face hardened. A deeper voice came through the phone. Calm. Familiar in the way nightmares can be familiar even when you've never heard them before. "Hello, Nora." Matteo went still. Not tense. Still, like something inside him had locked into place. The voice continued, soft and pleased. "You're standing with him, aren't you?" Nora couldn't speak. Matteo took one slow step closer. "Put it on speaker." She didn't want to obey him. But Lily was crying. Nora pressed the button. The man on the phone laughed quietly. "Matteo!" After all this time, Matteo's voice dropped. Victor. The scarred man on the booth started laughing harder, blood slipping between his teeth. Nora looked from him to Matteo. "Who is that?" Victor answered for him. "A ghost your husband helped bury." Nora's chest tightened. Matteo's eyes never left the phone. "If you touch the child," he said, "I will burn every house you've hidden in." "Still dramatic," Victor said. "Still pretending you're a king. But kings get old, secrets get expensive, and little girls grow into keys." Nora pressed the phone closer with both hands. "Please," she whispered. "She's 6. There was a pause. Then Victor's voice softened. "That is exactly why she matters." Lily cried again, smaller this time. "Mommy, I dropped Mr. Rabbit." Nora broke. She turned for the door, but Matteo blocked her. "Move." "No. My daughter is up there. And if you run blind, you die before you reach the stairs." "I don't care." "I do." The words came out too fast, too raw. Nora stared at him. For a second, the terrifying Mafia boss was gone, and the man in front of her looked haunted. As if he had been standing outside her life for years, watching through glass, forbidden to enter, paying bills he had no right to pay, carrying a dead man's bracelet like punishment. Victor chuckled through the phone. "There it is. The weakness." Matteo closed his eyes once. When he opened them, there was no softness left. "Nora," he said, "I need you to trust me for 5 minutes." She almost laughed. Trust him? A criminal. A stranger. A man who knew her daughter's fears. Her apartment. Her dead husband. Her rent. Her life. But then Lily whispered again, "Mommy?" And Nora realized trust was not what Matteo was asking for. He was asking for permission to become something worse than the men outside her daughter's door. Nora swallowed the terror rising in her throat. "Bring her back to me," she said. Matteo looked at her for one long, silent second. Then he placed Daniel's silver bracelet into her shaking palm. "I already failed your husband," he said. "I won't fail her." Before Nora could ask what that meant, the diner lights went out. The whole room plunged into darkness. And from upstairs, Lily screamed. Darkness swallowed Marcy's diner whole. For 1 second, Nora heard nothing but Lily scream through the phone. Then the line went dead. "No." Nora dropped to her knees, searching the floor with frantic hands. "No! No! No! Lily!" Matteo caught her before she could crawl toward the broken front windows. "Stay down. Don't touch me," she snapped, but her voice cracked in the middle. A gunshot exploded somewhere above them. Nora froze. Every part of her body recognized the sound, not from experience, but from the animal place inside. Every mother that knew danger had moved closer to her child. "My daughter is upstairs," she whispered. Matteo's face was barely visible in the dark, only the hard line of his jaw cut by faint blue snowlight through the shattered window. "I know." Another shot cracked through the building. Nora lunged for the stairwell. Matteo pulled her back. This time she turned on him with both hands, shoving his chest, striking him, clawing at his coat. "Let me go. She's 6 years old." He absorbed every hit without flinching. His hands closed around her wrists, firm but not cruel. "Nora, listen to me." "No. You listen to me." Her breath came fast and broken. "I don't care who you are. I don't care what Daniel did. I don't care about your enemies or your secrets or your money. My baby is upstairs, and if you stand in my way, I swear to God." Bullets tore through the diner windows. Glass exploded inward. Matteo threw his body over hers and drove her behind the counter as the room erupted. Marcy screamed. The truck driver cursed from beneath a booth. Mr. Hargrove moaned near the entrance, blood glistening on his chin. Snow blew through the broken windows like white ash. Men shouted outside. Enzo fired back from the side hallway, his face calm in a way that made Nora's stomach twist. The diner she had spent 5 years serving eggs and coffee in had become a battlefield. Matteo crouched in front of her, one hand braced on the counter, a gun in the other. His black coat was dusted with glass. Blood ran from a cut near his temple. He didn't seem to notice. "Two at the front," Enzo called. "More in the alley." "Block the alley," Matteo said. "No one reaches the stairs before me." Nora stared at him. "Before me, not before us." She tightened her fist around Daniel's bracelet. "I'm coming." "No. My daughter is in that closet, and Victor knows you'll run to her. Because I'm her mother. Because you're the key to breaking her." The words struck her silent. Matteo leaned closer, lowering his voice beneath the gunfire. "Victor does not need Lily dead tonight. He needs you terrified. He needs you obedient. He needs you willing to trade anything." Nora looked down at the bracelet, biting into her palm. The little silver L charm felt suddenly heavier than metal. "You said this was a clue," she whispered. "A clue to what?" Matteo's eyes flickered. Before he could answer, a laugh came from the darkness near the back booth. The scarred attacker Matteo had slammed into the table was still on the floor, blood running from his nose, one of Enzo's men holding a gun to his head. And still, he laughed. "To the ledger," he rasped. "Tell her, DeLuca. Tell the waitress what her dead husband stole." Nora slowly turned. "What ledger?" The scarred man's pale eyes found hers. Names, payments, judges, cops, senators, men who smile on television and kneel in private rooms. Daniel Whitman had the list that could bury them all. "No," Nora said. The word came out small. The man smiled wider. Poor Nora. Still thinks she married a construction worker. Matteo crossed the room in 2 strides and grabbed him by the throat. He slammed him into the booth hard enough to crack the wood. "Speak carefully." The man choked, but his smile stayed. "She deserves the truth." Matteo's fingers tightened. Nora stepped forward. "Let him talk." Matteo looked back at her. "Nora, let him talk." The room fell into a strange silence between bursts of gunfire outside. The scarred man coughed when Matteo released him. Then he looked at Nora with cruel satisfaction. Daniel hid the ledger before the fire. Victor searched the warehouse after it burned. Found nothing. Matteo searched too. Found nothing. Because Daniel was smarter than both of them. Nora's stomach twisted. Daniel. Herr Daniel. The man who left notes in Lily's lunchbox even before she was old enough to read. The man who cried when Nora told him she was pregnant. The man who promised that no matter how ugly the world became, he would make their home soft. "What does that have to do with Lily?" she asked. The scarred man tilted his head. "She knows the song." The diner seemed to tilt. Nora felt all the blood leave her face. "The song?" Matteo asked, deadly quiet. The man's eyes glittered. 3 knocks for the rabbit." Nora stopped breathing. Her mind opened like a wound. Lily at 2 years old, humming in her crib. Lily at 4, tapping on the closet door. Lily last Christmas, holding Daniel's photo and singing in her sleepy voice. 3 knocks for the rabbit. 2 turns for the moon. 1 little Lily opens the room. Nora had thought it was nonsense. A bedtime rhyme. Something Daniel must have sung before he died. But Matteo was looking at her like he had just heard a ghost speak. "You knew about it," Nora whispered. His silence answered first. "I suspected Daniel left something behind," he said. "You suspected my daughter knew where it was?" "I didn't know. But you watched us." "Yes." "You paid my rent." "Yes." "You knew where she went to school. You knew where she slept. You knew her favorite stuffed animal. His face hardened, but his eyes did not. Because Victor was looking too. Nora stepped back from him. For one terrible moment, the man who had protected her became just another shadow in her life. Another man with secrets standing too close to her child. "You let us live like that," she said. "You let me work until I couldn't feel my feet. You let me cry over bills. You let Lily ask why Santa brought fewer presents than other kids. And all this time you were there, watching." Matteo flinched. It was small, almost invisible, but she saw it, and she hated that seeing his guilt hurt her. "I kept you alive," he said. "No," she said, voice breaking. "You kept us close enough to whatever Daniel left behind." For the first time, Matteo looked away. The truth was not complete, but it was close enough to wound. Another gunshot cracked upstairs. Nora turned toward the stairwell. This time, Matteo didn't stop her. He only stepped in front of her. "Stay behind me. I don't trust you. I know. I may never trust you. I know. But if you can get me to Lily," she said, gripping the bracelet until it hurt. "Then move." Something dark and approving passed through his eyes. Then he turned. They moved fast. Matteo went first into the stairwell, gun raised. Nora followed close behind, her hand pressed to the wall to steady herself. Enzo and 2 men covered the rear. The stairwell smelled like dust, smoke, and old metal. Red emergency lights flickered weakly, turning the walls the color of blood. Somewhere below, men shouted. Somewhere above, a child sobbed. Nora climbed faster. First floor. Second. Then Matteo stopped. He pushed her behind him without looking. A shadow moved on the landing above. Matteo fired once. The man dropped down the stairs and crashed near Nora's feet, groaning, blood spreading across his shoulder. Nora clapped a hand over her mouth. Matteo looked back at her. "Don't look at him." "How do I not?" "Look at me." She hated that she obeyed. But she did. She looked at Matteo's face instead of the blood, at the red mark from her slap, at the sharp focus in his eyes, at the man Daniel had trusted, feared, or betrayed. Maybe all 3. They reached the 3rd floor. Apartment 3B's door stood open. Nora's heart stopped. "Lily?" she whispered. No answer. She ran inside. The apartment had been destroyed. Cushions slashed. Drawers dumped. Lily's crayons crushed under boots. Her drawings ripped from the refrigerator. The tiny dollar store Christmas tree lay sideways on the floor, its plastic star broken in half. Nora stood in the middle of it, shaking. This was their home. Small, poor, warm. The place where Lily learned to write her name. The place where Daniel's picture sat beside a candle. The place where Nora had whispered promises into the dark, because promises were all she could afford. Now it looked hunted. The closet door was open, empty. Nora made a sound that did not feel human. She dropped to her knees and grabbed Lily's stuffed rabbit from the floor, pressing it to her chest. "No. No, baby, no." Matteo crouched beside her. "Nora." She shoved his hand away. "Don't." He pulled back instantly. Enzo appeared in the doorway. "Mrs. Alvarez is alive, badly hurt. She says they took Lily through the service stairs." Nora rose too quickly and nearly fell. "Where?" Enzo looked at Matteo. "Where?" Nora screamed. "The basement," Enzo said. "Old laundry tunnel under Street Clements." Matteo's face went cold. "Victor isn't leaving through the street." Nora's phone buzzed on the floor. Everyone went still. "Unknown number." She answered with shaking hands. Lily appeared on the screen, tear-streaked and terrified. A gloved hand rested on her small shoulder. Behind her, Victor's voice purred from the darkness. "Hello again, Nora." Matteo stepped closer, his face like stone. "You have 10 minutes, Victor said. "Bring the bracelet to the laundry tunnel. No police, no army, no heroic Mafia king." Lily sobbed. "Mommy, I want to go home." Nora broke. "I'm coming, baby. I'm coming." The camera shifted. For 1 second, it focused on Lily's wrist. A thin red string was tied around it. Hanging from the string was a tiny brass key. Matteo whispered, "Daniel." Victor laughed softly. 3 knocks for the rabbit, he said. 2 turns for the moon. Then Lily, trembling and confused, finished the rhyme through tears. "One little Lily opens the room." The call ended. Nora looked at Matteo, and for the first time, the Mafia boss looked truly afraid. Nora stared at the dead phone screen until her reflection blurred inside the glass. Lily was gone. The bracelet was in her hand. And Matteo DeLuca, the man who had made an entire diner tremble with one quiet command, looked as if the world had finally found the one place it could hurt him. "What does the key open?" Nora asked. Matteo did not answer. That silence turned her terror into rage. "What does the key open, Matteo?" His eyes moved to the silver bracelet in her fist, then to Lily's stuffed rabbit pressed against her chest. "A room beneath Street Clements," he said. Nora's breath hitched. "The church?" "Yes. My daughter is in some tunnel under a church because of a room. Not just a room." Enzo stepped closer from the doorway. "Boss, we have to move." Matteo ignored him. Nora took one step toward Matteo. "Tell me everything. Right now." The destroyed apartment stood around them like proof of every lie. Drawers overturned. Lily's crayons crushed beneath glass. Daniel's framed photo lay face down near the kitchen, the glass cracked across his smiling face. Matteo looked at that photo like it had just accused him. "Daniel built the hiding place," he said quietly. "Years before you met him." Nora shook her head. "No. He worked construction, yes. But before that, he worked for my father." The room seemed to tilt. "Your father?" "Antonio DeLuca." The name meant nothing to Nora, but Enzo lowered his eyes. Matteo continued. "My father owned half the city and poisoned the other half. Judges, police captains, councilmen. He bought them, recorded them, kept proof of every sin in case they ever betrayed him." "The ledger," Nora whispered. Matteo nodded once. "Daniel helped hide it." "No," she said again, but weaker this time, because memories were beginning to rearrange themselves. Daniel coming home late with dust in his hair and fear in his eyes. Daniel checking the lock 3 times. Daniel telling her, "If anything ever happens to me, take Lily and don't trust any man who says he knew me." She had thought grief made him dramatic. She had kissed him and told him to stop scaring her. Matteo's voice softened. "Daniel was not born into my world. He was pulled into it. My father used men like him. Poor men. Desperate men. Men with skills and no power." Nora swallowed hard. "Then why would Daniel help you?" "Because he wanted out." "Out of what?" Matteo looked at her. "The DeLuca family." The words landed like a hand around her throat. Nora backed away. "Daniel wasn't Mafia." "No, but he knew too much. My father would never have let him walk away." "So Daniel betrayed him?" "He helped me betray him." Nora went still. Matteo's face turned colder, but his eyes were filled with something raw. "I was 26 when I decided my father had to fall. Daniel found the ledger first. He hid it before anyone knew it was missing. The plan was simple. Give it to federal agents. Destroy my father's empire. Get Daniel and his family protected." "His family?" Nora whispered. Matteo's gaze dropped for half a second, as if he could see her years ago, pregnant and unaware, loving a man who came home every night carrying death in his pocket. "You were carrying Lily." Nora's eyes burned. Daniel had known. All those nights he kissed her belly, all those mornings he promised everything would be okay. He had been living inside a war. "And then?" she asked. Matteo's jaw tightened. "Victor found out." The name turned the air colder. "My father's enforcer," Matteo said. "Cruel, patient, loyal to whoever gave him blood. He set the warehouse fire before Daniel could testify." Nora's knees weakened. Warehouse fire. Accident. Faulty wiring. That was what the police report said. That was what she had buried beside her husband. "He didn't just die," she whispered. Matteo's voice lowered. "He was murdered." The apartment disappeared around her. For 6 years, Nora had mourned a tragedy. Now that tragedy had become a killing, a betrayal, a secret so large it had swallowed her marriage whole. "Why didn't you tell me?" she asked. "I tried." "No, you didn't. I came to the hospital the night Lily was born." Nora went still. A memory surfaced through exhaustion and morphine. A shadow behind the glass. A nurse saying some man had been asking whether the baby was safe. Nora had been too broken to care. Daniel was dead. Lily was crying. The world had become a hospital room, and a tiny heartbeat against her chest. "You were there?" Matteo nodded. Daniel was gone. Victor was hunting everyone connected to him. "If I approached you openly, I would paint a target on your back." "So you watched from far away?" "Yes." "You paid my rent?" "Yes." "You let me think I was alone." A muscle moved in his jaw. "I thought alone was safer than knowing me." Nora laughed once, bitter and broken. Do you hear yourself? I hear it every night. The words silenced her. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Enzo's phone buzzed. He checked it and stiffened. Boss, Victor's men are sealing the lower exits. We have minutes before he moves the girl. Lily. Her fear returned like a blade. Nora looked down at the bracelet. He needs this. Matteo's eyes darkened. The charm opens the first lock. The key on Lily's wrist opens the second. Victor needs both. Then he won't get it. He already has Lily. And you think I'll hand this over? I think you will do anything to save your daughter. The truth hit too close. Nora stared at the tiny silver charm. The letter L. For 6 years, she thought it meant Lily. But now, beneath the cracked apartment light, she saw the faint line around the edge. Not decoration. Asem. Her thumb pressed against the back. Something clicked. The round silver charm opened like a locket. Inside was not a photo. It was a tiny black strip, folded impossibly small. Enzo swore under his breath. Matteo went completely still. Nora looked up. What is this? Matteo took the strip carefully, holding it beneath the light from Enzo's phone. His face changed. Not fear. Shock. Daniel didn't hide the location in the bracelet. Matteo whispered. Nora's voice shook. Then what is it? He turned the strip toward her. Tiny white numbers ran across it. A bank fault code. A name. And one sentence written so small Nora could barely read it. If you're reading this, Nora knows the truth. Her breath disappeared. Matteo's hand tightened around the strip. Daniel left it for you. Nora stared at the words until tears slid down her face. Not for Matteo. Not for the Mafia. Not for revenge. For her. Daniel had known one day the truth would come for them. He had hidden the final answer inside a bracelet he believed only Nora would ever have the courage to open. Enzo looked toward the hallway. Boss, we need to go. Matteo folded the strip and handed it back to Nora. She stared at him. You're giving it to me? It was never mine. For the first time since she had met him, Nora understood the difference between power and ownership. Matteo could have taken it. He didn't. Nora closed the locket with shaking fingers and wrapped the bracelet around her wrist. Then she picked up Lily's stuffed rabbit. I'm getting my daughter. Matteo's eyes locked on hers. And after that? Nora looked at Daniel's broken photo on the floor. After 6 years of poverty, grief, and lies, something inside her rose from the ashes. After that, she said, I want every man who helped murder my husband to learn my name. Matteo's face went dangerously still. Then, slowly, he smiled. Not warm. Not kind. Proud. They rushed into the hallway together. And from somewhere beneath Street Clement's church, the old bells began to ring. Nora ran with Lily's stuffed rabbit crushed against her chest and Daniel's bracelet burning around her wrist. The hallway outside apartment 3B flashed red with dying emergency lights. Smoke drifted from somewhere below. Doors slammed. People cried. Boots thundered through the building. But Nora heard only one thing. Lily's voice. Mommy, I want to go home. Matteo moved in front of her like a wall of black shadow, gun raised, every step controlled. Enzo followed behind them, speaking into his phone in clipped, dangerous orders. Seal the north alley. Block Monroe Street. Nobody gets near Street Clements unless Matteo clears it. Nora stared at Matteo's back. If Victor hurts hair, he won't, Matteo said. You don't know that. He needs her alive. The answer was meant to comfort her. It didn't. He needs her like a key, Nora snapped. That's not safety. Matteo stopped at the stairwell door and turned. For 1 second, with smoke behind him and blood at his temple, he looked less like a man than a warning. No, he said quietly. Safety ended the moment Victor found you. Nora hated him for saying it. She hated him more because it was true. They descended fast, avoiding the main stairs when Enzo signaled movement below. Matteo led them through a service corridor Nora had never used before, past water-stained walls and storage closets that smelled of bleach, rust, and old pipes. A door opened ahead. A man stepped out with a gun. Matteo fired before Nora could scream. The man dropped hard. Nora stumbled back, one hand flying to her mouth. Matteo caught her elbow. Don't look. You keep saying that. Because you keep trying to survive like you're still in your old life. My old life had bills and bad coffee, Nora said, voice shaking. Not bodies in hallways. His eyes held hers. Your old life was built on a secret men were willing to kill for. The words hit deep. Nora pulled her arm away. And you knew. Yes, you knew this world was around us. Yes, and you still let me raise my daughter inside it blind. Something dark passed across Matteo's face. I thought ignorance was mercy. No, Nora said. Ignorance was control. For the first time, Matteo had no answer. They reached the basement. The air was colder there, damp and heavy. Somewhere beyond the concrete walls, water dripped steadily, like a clock counting down. Enzo pushed open a metal door marked Maintenance. Beyond it, a narrow tunnel stretched beneath the street. Street Clement's laundry tunnel. Nora stepped inside and felt the city disappear above her. The tunnel was lined with old brick, slick with moisture, lit by weak yellow bulbs that flickered every few feet. Rusted laundry carts stood abandoned along the walls. Pipes ran overhead like veins. At the far end, darkness waited. Matteo looked back at her. Stay between me and Enzo. No. His eyes narrowed. Nora, if Lily sees guns first, she'll panic. If she sees me, she'll breathe. This is not a negotiation. It became one when my daughter became your war. Enzo went still. Matteo stepped closer, until Nora had to lift her chin to hold his stare. Any other man might have yelled. Matteo only lowered his voice. Victor will use your love against you, then let him underestimate it. The silence between them tightened. Then Matteo lowered his gun slightly. Not surrender. Permission. Fine, he said, but if I say move, you move. If Lily runs to me, nobody stops her. His eyes flickered. No one stops her. They moved deeper into the tunnel. With every step, Nora's fear changed. It did not vanish. It hardened. It became something sharp beneath her ribs. She thought of Lily's tiny shoes by the apartment door. Daniel's cracked photo on the floor. The years of tips counted under weak kitchen light. The nights she had apologized to her daughter for things no child should notice. Cheap cereal. Secondhand coats. A birthday cake made from boxed mix because Nora couldn't afford bakery frosting. All while men like Victor and Antonio DeLuca hid power beneath churches. All while Daniel had left his final secret on her wrist. She looked down at the bracelet. The silver L charm rested against her pulse. Matteo noticed. Don't open it again. Why? Because Victor may have eyes in here. Nora looked around the empty tunnel. Here? Everywhere. She gave a bitter laugh. You say that? Like it's normal. In my world it is. I don't want your world. No one sane does. That made her glance at him. For the first time since the diner, Matteo looked tired. Not weak. Never weak. But worn in a place no one could see. Then why stay in it? She asked. His mouth tightened. Because men worse than me fight harder when men like me leave. You expect me to believe you're the lesser evil? No. His eyes met hers. I expect you to believe I know where evil sleeps. Before Nora could answer, a speaker crackled overhead. Old. Hidden somewhere in the tunnel wall. Victor's voice slid through the static. How touching. Nora stopped. Matteo raised one hand, signaling everyone still. Victor laughed softly. The widow and the king. Daniel would have hated this. Nora's grip tightened around Lily's rabbit. Where is my daughter? Close enough to hear you if you beg. Matteo's voice went cold. Show yourself. Oh, Matteo, Victor said, still confusing bravery with control. A light flickered on at the end of the tunnel. Then another. Then another. An old laundry chamber appeared ahead, wide and circular, with rusted machines along the walls and a heavy steel door behind them. In the center of the room stood Victor. Tall. Silver-haired. Calm. One gloved hand rested on Lily's shoulder. Nora's heart tore open. Lily stood in front of him, crying silently, her curls messy, her cheeks wet. The red string and brass key were tied around her wrist. She clutched nothing, because Mr. Rabbit was still in Nora's hands. Mommy, Lily whimpered. Nora took a step forward. Matteo caught her wrist. She turned on him with murder in her eyes. He didn't let go. Slow, he whispered. Victor smiled. Listen to him, Nora. He has buried more mothers than you've met. Matteo's face did not change, but Nora felt the violence rise in him like heat. Let her go, Matteo said. Victor tilted his head. And lose my leverage? I have what you want, Nora said. Both men looked at her. Her voice shook, but she forced it steady. The bracelet, the charm, the code. Whatever Daniel left, you need me to open it. Victor's smile widened. There she is. Daniel's widow finally waking up. Nora stepped forward again. This time Matteo did not stop her. Let Lily walk to me first. Victor laughed. No, she is a child. She is a lock, Victor said. You are a lock. Daniel always did love making things complicated. Lily sobbed harder. Nora's face crumpled, but she did not break. She lowered herself slightly, keeping her eyes on her daughter. Lily, baby, look at me. Lily tried, but Victor's hand tightened on her shoulder. Nora held up the stuffed rabbit. I found Mr. Rabbit. Lily's lower lip trembled. He was scared. I know, Nora whispered, but he's brave now, just like you. Victor sighed. Enough. He pulled a gun and pressed it lightly against Lily's hair. The world stopped. Matteo's men raised their weapons. Matteo did not move. Nora forgot how to breathe. Bracelet, Victor said. Now. Nora slowly reached for her wrist. Matteo's voice was barely audible beside her. Don't. She looked at him. In his eyes she saw command, warning, rage, and beneath all of it pleading, not for the ledger, for Lily. Nora understood then. Matteo could kill many men, but he could not shoot through her daughter. Victor knew it. Nora unfastened the bracelet. Matteo's jaw tightened. She walked forward, every step echoing in the chamber. Lily cried, Mommy, don't go. I'm right here, baby. Victor extended his free hand. Nora stopped just out of reach. Daniel left it for me, she said. Victor's smile faded slightly. He wrote that, didn't he? Nora continued. If I'm reading it, I know the truth. Matteo looked at her sharply. Victor's eyes narrowed. Nora's voice grew steadier. That means Daniel knew you would come. He knew Matteo would come. He knew everyone would want what was inside. Nora, Matteo warned softly. But she kept going. My husband was smarter than both of you. Victor's face hardened. He didn't leave the answer in the bracelet, Nora said. He left a test. For the first time, uncertainty moved through Victor's eyes. Nora saw it. So did Matteo. The power in the room shifted by 1 inch. And 1 inch was enough. Lily suddenly opened her tiny fist. Something dropped. The brass key hit the floor and skidded beneath an old laundry machine. Victor looked down. Matteo moved. The chamber exploded. Gunfire shattered the lights. Enzo tackled one of Victor's men into the wall. Matteo crossed the room like a storm, firing once, twice, forcing Victor away from Lily. Nora ran, not toward the bracelet, not toward the steel door, toward her child. Lily screamed and ran too. Nora caught her halfway across the chamber and dropped to the floor, wrapping her body over Lily's as bullets cracked through metal around them. I've got you, Nora sobbed. I've got you, baby. Lily clung to her neck. Mommy, I was brave. You were so brave. For 3 seconds, Nora allowed herself to believe she had won. Then a shadow fell over them. Victor stood above her, blood on his sleeve, gun in hand, fury stripped clean across his face. Nora pulled Lily tighter. Then Matteo appeared behind him. Cold metal pressed to the back of Victor's head. Matteo's voice was soft enough to terrify. Step away from them. Victor smiled slowly, even with death behind him. You still don't understand, he whispered. The girl was never the only key. His eyes moved to Nora. The widow is. Then the steel door behind them unlocked by itself. A deep mechanical sound rolled through the chamber. Everyone turned. The hidden room beneath Street Clements began to open. The hidden room beneath Street Clements opened like something waking from a grave. A deep metal groan rolled through the laundry chamber. Dust fell from the ceiling. The old steel door split down the middle, revealing darkness beyond it. Cold, silent, untouched for years. Nora held Lily tighter against her chest. Matteo kept his gun pressed to the back of Victor's head. Nobody moved. Even Victor stopped smiling for half a second. Then he whispered, Daniel, you clever bastard. Nora looked from the opening door to the bracelet lying near her hand on the floor. I didn't open it, she said. Matteo's eyes cut to the door. No. Victor's smile returned slowly. No, she didn't. The chamber lights flickered. Somewhere inside the hidden room, a machine hummed to life. One by one, old wall lamps glowed, revealing a narrow concrete room lined with metal shelves, locked cabinets, and a single black safe built into the far wall. But it was not the safe that made Nora's blood turn cold. It was the camera. A small red light blinked above the safe. Then a screen mounted on the wall flashed alive. Static. Snow. Then Daniel Whitman appeared. Nora stopped breathing. Lily lifted her tear-streaked face from Nora's shoulder. "Daddy?" The word broke the room. Daniel looked younger on the screen, tired, bruised. Sitting in what looked like a basement office, one eye swollen, his hands shaking as he adjusted the camera. Behind him, distant shouting echoed. His voice came through cracked speakers. If this recording is playing, then the room opened with Nora and Lily both alive. Nora's hand flew to her mouth. Matteo's gun lowered by an inch. Daniel looked straight into the camera, straight into 6 years of Nora's grief. "Nora, I'm sorry." She made a small broken sound. Lily stared at the screen like her whole world had split open. Daniel swallowed hard. "I lied to you. Not because I didn't love you, because I loved you more than anything I ever touched. I thought if I kept the truth away from you, I could keep the blood away too." Nora's tears fell silently. Matteo stood frozen, his face carved out of guilt. Daniel looked off screen, then back. "Matteo, if you're there, it means you failed to stay away." Victor laughed softly. Matteo's jaw tightened. Daniel continued, "And it means Victor survived." Victor bowed slightly toward the screen, amused. "Hello, old friend." Daniel's recorded face hardened, as if some part of him had known that monster would be watching. "The ledger is not here," Daniel said. The room changed instantly. Victor's smile vanished. Matteo went still. Nora stared at the screen. "What?" Victor whispered. Daniel's voice remained steady. "This room is a trap. Not for Nora, not for Lily, for the men who thought they could use them." A faint click echoed from inside the walls. Enzo turned sharply. "Boss." The steel door behind them slammed halfway shut. Matteo grabbed Nora's arm and pulled her and Lily back just before a metal gate dropped from the ceiling, separating Victor from most of his men. Gunfire erupted. Victor's men shouted from the tunnel. Enzo fired back. The chamber exploded again into chaos, but Daniel's voice kept playing over it, calm and ghostly. "My daughter is not a key to your power. My wife is not a bargaining chip. And if you brought them here, Victor, you walked into the only place I knew your arrogance would lead you." Victor roared and lunged for the control panel near the wall. Matteo hit him hard. The two men crashed against a rusted laundry machine. Victor swung a blade from his sleeve, slicing across Matteo's side. Matteo grunted, but drove his fist into Victor's jaw. Nora pulled Lily behind an overturned cart, covering her ears. "Don't look, baby." Lily sobbed. "Mommy, Daddy's talking." "I know." Nora pressed her forehead to Lily's. "I know." On the screen, Daniel leaned closer to the camera. "Nora, listen to me carefully. The ledger was never paper. It was people. Testimony. Accounts. Video. Names that could not survive daylight. I divided it into 3 pieces." Matteo froze for half a second. Victor saw it. "What does that mean?" Nora whispered. Daniel answered from the past. "1 piece went to the FBI. Nora's heart pounded. 1 piece went to Matteo. Matteo's face changed. No chalk. Recognition. Guilt. Nora slowly turned toward him. "You had part of it?" Matteo didn't answer. Victor laughed through blood on his teeth. "There it is." Nora's voice trembled. "Matteo?" He looked at her, and that look told her everything. Daniel's recording continued. "The final piece went where no man in that world would ever think to search." Nora's stomach dropped. Daniel's eyes softened. With Nora, she shook her head. No, I don't have anything." Daniel smiled sadly. "You do, sweetheart. You carried it every day and never knew." Nora looked down at Lily, at the stuffed rabbit, at Daniel's bracelet, at her own shaking hands. Then she remembered. The music box. The cheap wooden music box Daniel had made for their first anniversary. A crooked little thing with a painted moon on top. Nora had kept it in the closet for years, not because it was valuable, but because it was the last thing his hands had built for her. Inside it, Lily kept buttons, old coins, and broken crayons. Nora's blood went cold. Matteo saw the realization on her face. Victor saw it too. "The widow is the vault," Victor whispered. Nora backed away from him. Matteo stepped between them, bleeding through his black shirt. "Nora," he said quietly, "where is it?" She stared at him like he had become a stranger all over again. You knew you had a piece. His face tightened. I knew Daniel gave me something before he died. What? A drive. And you didn't tell me? I didn't know there were more pieces. But you knew the truth was bigger than the bracelet. Matteo's silence cut deeper than an answer. Nora's tears dried on her face. For the first time, fear gave way to something colder. Betrayal. You let me walk into this tunnel thinking Lily was the only thing that mattered. She is the only thing that matters. No, Nora said. You were still chasing Daniel's secret. Matteo stepped toward her. She stepped back. The movement hurt him. She could see it. She was glad. You don't get to look wounded, she whispered. You had 6 years to tell me. 6 years to give me a choice. Instead, you paid my rent like guilt could buy silence. His face went pale beneath the blood. Nora? No. Daniel's voice filled the chamber again. If Matteo is there, don't trust his silence. He means well. God help him, he does. But men raised by power confuse protection with possession. Matteo closed his eyes. Victor smiled. Even the dead know you, Daniel continued. Nora, the last piece is yours because you were the only person I knew who would choose Lily over revenge. If you still have the music box, break the moon. What's inside can end this. Nora's breath came unevenly. The music box. In apartment 3B. In the destroyed closet. Victor's eyes sharpened with hunger. Apartment 3B, he said. Matteo moved instantly, but Victor was faster than he looked. He pressed a hidden switch in his sleeve. A blast ripped through the tunnel behind them. The entire chamber shook. Dust and smoke swallowed everything. Nora threw herself over Lily as the ceiling cracked. Enzo shouted orders. Men screamed from the tunnel beyond the dropped gate. When the smoke cleared, Victor was gone. A section of the wall had opened near the old machines, revealing a second passage. Matteo cursed and ran toward it. But another steel barrier slammed down, sealing the way. Victor's voice crackled through the speaker system. Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, Nora. I was beginning to think I'd have to torture the child to make you remember. Nora clutched Lily so tightly the little girl whimpered. Matteo turned toward the sound, rage burning across his face. Victor, I'll see you upstairs, Victor said. Widow. The speaker died. For a second, only alarms echoed through the chamber. Then Daniel's recording continued. Softer now. Nora, if I failed you, I'm sorry. If Matteo failed you, make him earn forgiveness. And if Lily is listening, Lily lifted her head, crying silently. Daniel's face broke with love. Hi, little moon. Daddy loves you. Be brave for your mom. Lily sobbed. Nora held her and wept against her hair. Then the screen went black. The room fell silent. Matteo stood a few feet away, bleeding, breathing hard, unable to come closer. Nora looked at him. The man who saved them. The man who lied. The man Daniel trusted just enough to warn her against. We go back to the apartment, she said. Matteo nodded. Victor will already be on his way. Then we move faster. Nora. She stood, lifting Lily into her arms. No more orders. No more secrets. No more deciding what I can survive. Matteo stared at her. Something changed in his expression. Not dominance. Not control. Respect. Nora walked past him toward the tunnel. Lily clinging to her neck, the stuffed rabbit trapped between them. Behind her, Matteo followed. Not in front this time. Behind. And somewhere above them, Victor was already racing toward the only thing Daniel had left truly hidden. Nora reached the basement stairs with Lily locked against her chest and Matteo's men falling into formation behind her. For the first time, Matteo did not walk in front of her. He walked behind, bleeding, silent, watching every shadow as if it owed him obedience. Lily's arms were tight around Nora's neck. Her little body trembled with every breath, but she did not cry anymore. That terrified Nora more than tears would have. Mommy, Lily whispered, is Daddy's box bad? Nora pressed a kiss into her curls. No, baby. Then why do bad men want it? Nora's throat tightened. Because your father loved us enough to hide the truth. Because monsters hate being dragged into the light. Because I was too tired, too poor, too broken to see that our simple life had been sitting on top of a war. She said only, because it can stop them. Behind her, Matteo's voice was low. Nora. She didn't turn. What? If Victor reaches the apartment first, he won't search carefully. He'll destroy everything. Nora's pace quickened. Enzo moved beside them, phone to his ear. 2 cars at the south entrance. 3 men down in the alley. Police scanners are quiet. Of course they are, Matteo said. Nora glanced back. What does that mean? It means Victor still owns people with badges. Lily tightened her grip. Nora's anger flared hot enough to burn through fear. Then no one is coming. Matteo's eyes met hers. I'm here. The words hung between them. A week ago, they would have sounded arrogant. Now they sounded like a promise he was bleeding to keep. Nora looked away first. They burst through the basement door into a hallway choked with smoke. The building alarms screamed above them. Tenants huddled near exits, crying, coughing, dragging children and pets through broken glass. Mrs. Alvarez lay on a stretcher near the lobby, wrapped in a blanket, her gray hair stained with blood. Nora stopped. Mrs. Alvarez. The older woman opened one swollen eye. Mija. Nora knelt beside her, Lily still in her arms. I'm so sorry, Nora whispered. Mrs. Alvarez reached up with a trembling hand and touched Lily's cheek. You are alive. That is enough. Lily started crying again then, small and broken. I hid like you said. You did good, Nina. Mrs. Alvarez looked at Nora. Go. He went upstairs. Matteo stepped closer. How many? Mrs. Alvarez's eyes sharpened despite the pain. 4 with him. Maybe more. One smelled like gasoline. Nora's stomach turned. Gasoline. Apartment 3B. The music box. Matteo's face became deadly calm. Enzo, clear the stairwell. Enzo nodded. Already moving. Nora rose. Matteo held out his arms. Give me Lily. No. Nora, if we're going upstairs. She stays with me. If bullets start, she stays with me. Nora repeated, colder this time. Matteo looked at Lily, then back at Nora. This time, he did not argue. Then stay low. Behind me once we hit the 3rd floor. Nora's jaw tightened. You said no more orders. Then consider it me begging. That stopped her. For one heartbeat, the chaos around them faded. Matteo DeLuca, the man who ruled rooms with silence, stood in front of her with blood soaking his shirt, asking instead of commanding. Nora gave a single nod. They moved. The stairwell up to the 3rd floor felt longer than before. Every step echoed. Every flicker of red emergency light made the walls look like they were breathing blood. Halfway up, a gunshot cracked from above. Enzo's voice shouted, Contact! Matteo surged forward. Nora dropped to one knee, curling over Lily as bullets hammered the railing above them. Plaster burst from the wall. Lily screamed into Nora's shoulder. Eyes on me, Nora whispered. Just me. I'm scared. I know. Hold tight. Matteo fired twice from the landing. A body hit the stairs. Then another man appeared above Enzo with a knife. Nora saw him before anyone else. Enzo. Enzo turned too late. The man lunged. Without thinking, Nora grabbed a rusted fire extinguisher from the wall and swung it with both hands. It connected with the man's knee. He screamed and collapsed forward. Enzo caught him by the collar and slammed him into the rail. For one stunned second, Enzo looked at Nora. Then he gave a sharp nod. Respect. Matteo looked back at her too. His eyes burned with something fierce and dangerous. Pride. Nora hated that it made her stand taller. They reached the 3rd floor. Smoke rolled under the ceiling. Apartment 3B's door was open again. But this time, orange light flickered inside. Fire. Nora's heart stopped. No. She ran before Matteo could stop her. The living room was burning. Curtains eaten by flames. Smoke clawing up the walls. Lily's drawings curling black on the floor. Daniel's photo half melted inside its cracked frame. Victor had not searched carefully. He had punished. Nora shoved Lily toward Matteo. Take her. This time, she did not wait for permission. Matteo caught Lily as Nora dropped low and crawled toward the bedroom hallway. Nora! Matteo shouted. The music box. Heat slapped her face. Smoke filled her lungs. She wrapped her apron over her mouth and moved through the apartment she had once called home. The couch burned behind her. The kitchen cabinets popped from the heat. Somewhere above, a smoke detector screamed like a dying thing. She reached the bedroom. The closet was half collapsed, clothes and shelves pulled down into a pile of ash and splintered wood. She dug through it with bare hands, coughing, eyes streaming. Come on, she choked. Come on, Daniel. A beam cracked overhead. Matteo appeared through the smoke, Lily and Enzo's arms behind him. Get out. Not without it. The ceiling groaned. Matteo crossed the room, seized the burning shelf with both hands, and lifted it just enough for Nora to reach beneath. Her fingers found wood. Small, square, warm from the fire. She pulled the music box free. The painted moon on top was blackened at the edges, but still there. For a second, she stared at it. All those years she had dusted it, packed it, moved it from apartment to apartment, never knowing she was carrying the last weapon Daniel had left her. Then the ceiling gave way. Matteo threw himself over her as flaming plaster crashed down. The impact drove them both to the floor. Nora clutched the music box to her chest. Matteo's body covered hers, shielding her from sparks and falling debris. He groaned. Not loud, but enough. Nora turned beneath him. Matteo? Blood ran down his side, darker now, spreading fast. His face was tight with pain. I'm fine. You're not. He looked at the music box. Do you have it? Nora almost laughed from terror. You're bleeding and still asking about the box? I'm asking if Daniel's last chance survived. Herr Enger faltered. Because under the control, under the violence, under every lie he had told by silence, she heard it. Not greed. Guilt. Étonnement. Another blast of heat rolled through the room. Move! Matteo rasped. They stumbled out together, Nora dragging him more than he allowed himself to admit. Enzo took Matteo's arm at the doorway and pulled them both into the hall. Lily screamed when she saw the blood. Mr. Matteo. The way she said his name made Nora's chest tighten. Matteo dropped to one knee before Lily, breathing hard but forcing his face calm. Little Moon, he said, voice rough. I need you to cover your ears. Lily sobbed. Why? Because it's going to get loud. From the stairwell came boots. Many. Enzo looked down the hall. Victor's men. Matteo stood, swaying slightly. How many? Too many. Nora clutched the music box. Matteo looked at her. Break the moon. What? Daniel said break the moon. Nora looked down at the painted moon on the lid. Her hands shook. She had protected this box for 6 years because it was one of the last gentle things Daniel had made. Now she had to destroy it. Lily touched her wrist. Daddy said it's okay. Nora looked at her daughter. Lily's tearful eyes were fixed on the box. He said in the video, Lily whispered, break the moon. Nora swallowed the pain rising in her throat. Then she slammed the music box against the floor. Once. Twice. On the third hit, the painted moon cracked open. A small metal drive slipped out. Enzo exhaled. There it is. Matteo took one look and handed it back to Nora. Keep it. You need it. No, he said. You do. Gunfire erupted from the stairwell. Matteo shoved Nora and Lily behind the hallway corner as bullets tore through the smoke. Enzo's men fired back. Tenants screamed below. The entire building seemed to shake with war. Nora crouched with Lily under her arm. The drive clenched in one fist. The music box splintered at her feet. Then her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She answered without thinking. Victor's voice was calm. You found it. Nora's eyes lifted to Matteo. He mouthed, Don't speak. But Nora was done being silent. Yes, she said. A pause. Then Victor laughed. Good girl. Matteo's face darkened. Nora's voice turned cold. You should run. The laughter stopped. What did you say? Nora stood slowly despite Matteo's warning hand. Smoke curled around her. Firelight flashed across her face. Lily clung to her coat, staring up at her mother like she had never seen her before. I said run, Nora repeated, because every name on this drive is going to see daylight. Every judge, every cop, every man who bought your silence. And when they start turning on each other, they'll need someone to blame. Victor's breathing changed. Nora smiled through tears. I'm going to make sure it's you. For 3 seconds, there was only gunfire and static. Then Victor said softly, You sound just like Daniel. Nora's heart cracked. No, she said. Daniel was hiding from you. She looked at Matteo, then at Lily, then at the burning apartment behind her. I'm not. She ended the call. At the far end of the hallway, Victor's men pushed forward through the smoke. Matteo stepped beside Nora, gun raised. Enzo stood on her other side. For the first time, Nora did not stand behind them. She stood between them, holding the drive that could burn an empire. Matteo looked at her, blood on his face, fire in his eyes. Ready? Nora tightened her hold on Lily. Then she looked down the hallway at the men coming to destroy what was left of her life. No, she said. The first bullet tore past them. Nora did not flinch. I'm done being ready. Now I'm angry. The hallway became a mouth of smoke and fire. Victor's men advanced through it with guns raised, expecting Nora to hide behind Matteo DeLuca. She did not. Lily clung to her coat with one hand. In Nora's other hand, the small metal drive pressed into her palm like a heartbeat. For 6 years, Nora had survived by making herself small. Small voice, small apartment, small dreams, small meals so Lily could eat more. She had apologized for being poor, for needing extensions, for taking extra shifts, for not being able to give her daughter the life Daniel had promised them. But standing outside her burning home, with Daniel's final secret in her hand, and Matteo bleeding beside her, something inside Nora became still. Not fearless. Certain. Matteo raised his gun. Enzo, take Lily. No! Lily cried, clutching Nora harder. Nora bent down and pressed the stuffed rabbit into Lily's arms. Baby, listen to me. Go with Enzo for 1 minute. I don't want to leave you. I know. Nora kissed her forehead. But I need both hands to bring us home. Lily's lip trembled. Then she looked at Matteo. He crouched despite the blood soaking his shirt. His face was pale, but his voice stayed steady. Little Moon, he said, I swear on your father's name I will not let anyone take your mother. Lily stared at him. Then she let Enzo lift her behind cover. A bullet tore past Nora's shoulder. Matteo grabbed her arm and pulled her down as plaster burst from the wall. Nora, I know. You don't. She looked at him. Firelight moved across his face, catching the cut at his temple, the red mark from her slap, the exhaustion in his eyes. You think protecting me means standing in front of me, she said. Not anymore. His jaw tightened. For once he did not command. He asked, Then tell me what you need. That stopped her. No order. No cage dressed as safety. Just the question. Nora looked down at the drive. Can you send it? Matteo's eyes sharpened. To whom? Everyone Daniel trusted. Most of them are dead. Then everyone they feared. For the first time, Matteo smiled. Small. Dangerous. Proud. He turned to Enzo. Secure line. Enzo, still holding Lily behind the corner, pulled a phone from his coat and slid it across the floor. Matteo caught it with one hand. Gunfire cracked again. Matteo fired twice without taking his eyes off Nora. 2 men vanished back into the smoke. Matteo plugged the drive into the phone with a small adapter from Enzo's kit. The screen lit up. Files loaded one by one. Names. Videos. Bank records. Police reports. Payments. Photographs. Nora saw a judge from the news. A police captain who had once stood beside the mayor. A senator whose wife smiled every Christmas while donating toys to children's hospitals. Her stomach turned. This is why Daniel died, she whispered. Matteo's voice was low. This is why he fought. A new message appeared on the phone. Enter final authorization. Below it, one question. What did she name the moon? Nora froze. Matteo looked at her. Do you know? Her mind raced. The moon. The music box. Daniel had painted a crooked moon on the lid because he said he could never draw stars right. Nora had laughed until she cried. He had kissed the paint off his thumb and said the moon looked lonely. Then he had placed the box on her nightstand and whispered, There. A little moon for my little sunrise. Nora's breath caught. Sunrise. She typed the word with shaking fingers. Sunrise. The phone unlocked. The files began uploading. Matteo stared at the screen. Daniel built a dead man's switch. Nora watched the progress bar climb. 20%. 30. Forte. From the smoke, Victor's voice cut through the hallway. Stop. He emerged at the far end, blood on his coat, fury stripped bare across his face. 2 men flanked him with guns raised. Nora stepped forward before Matteo could stop her. Victor's eyes dropped to the phone. Then to Nora. You stupid woman. Nora smiled. The words should have hurt. They didn't. She had heard worse from men with less power. You keep saying that like I'm supposed to feel small. Victor lifted his gun. Matteo's weapon rose instantly. The hallway locked into silence. Smoke curled between them. Fire cracked behind Nora. Lily sobbed softly behind the corner. Victor's gaze moved toward the sound. Matteo's voice went deadly. Look at me. Victor smiled. Still pretending she belongs to you? She belongs to herself, Nora said. Both men looked at her. Nora's hand tightened around the phone. And so do I. The upload reached 68%. Victor's calm fractured. You think this makes you powerful? No, Nora said. It makes you exposed. His face twisted. You have no idea what happens when those men panic. They won't just come for me. They'll come for the child. Maybe, Nora said, but they'll come scared. She lifted the phone so he could see the screen. 82%. And scared men make mistakes. Victor fired. Matteo moved first. He shoved Nora behind him as the shot tore through his shoulder. He staggered but stayed upright, firing back. Enzo's men answered from the stairwell. Victor's guards scattered into smoke. Nora caught Matteo as he dropped to one knee. Matteo, phone, he rasped. Don't stop the upload. Nora looked down. 91%. Matteo's blood soaked her hand. For one terrifying second, she almost threw the phone away and grabbed him with both arms. Then Lily cried from behind the corner. Mommy! Nora closed one hand over Matteo's wound and held the phone up with the other. 97. 98. Victor appeared through the smoke, limping now, gun aimed straight at Nora. You should have stayed a waitress. Nora looked at him. At the man who murdered Daniel. The man who touched her child. The man who thought fear was a leash. No, she said. You should have left me one. The upload hit 100%. Transmission complete. A second later, phones began ringing. Not one. Dozens. From pockets of fallen men. From Enzo's coat. From Matteo's hand. From somewhere in the stairwell. News alerts screamed to life across every device in the building. Victor stopped. His face changed. For the first time, he looked truly afraid. Nora stepped closer. Matteo's blood on her hands, smoke in her hair, Daniel's bracelet around her wrist. You wanted Daniel's widow, she said. Now you have her. Sirens finally rose outside. Real ones. Many. Growing louder. Victor backed away. Matteo forced himself to stand beside Nora, swaying but unbroken. Enzo emerged with Lily in his arms. Lily reached for her mother, and Nora took her, holding her tight against her chest. Victor looked from Nora to Matteo. Then he laughed once, hollow and bitter. You think this ends tonight? Nora held Lily with one arm and lifted the phone with the other. No, she said. Tonight is when everyone learns your name. Behind Victor, one of his own men lowered his gun. Then another, not out of loyalty, out of survival. The power shifted so clearly Nora could feel it. For years, Victor had ruled with secrets. Now the secrets belonged to her. Matteo looked at Nora, his face pale, eyes dark with pain and something deeper. What do you want me to do? Nora looked at Victor. Then at Lily's tear-stained face. She thought revenge would feel hot. It didn't. It felt cold, clean. Let him live long enough to watch everything fall. Matteo's mouth curved faintly. As you wish. Police stormed the building. Cameras flashed through the broken lobby windows. Sirens painted the smoke red and blue. But this time, the badges were not there for Nora. They were there for Victor. A federal agent pushed through the smoke, weapon raised, shouting orders. Victor tried to step back, but his own men moved away from him as if he had become poison. Nora watched them cuff him. She watched his face as the first reporter outside screamed his name. Victor, who had lived in shadows for decades, blinked under the camera flashes like a trapped animal. Lily buried her face against Nora's neck. Can we go home? Nora looked back at the burning apartment. Their home was gone, but Lily was alive. Daniel's truth was free, and the men who had fed on silence were finally choking on noise. Not that one, baby, Nora whispered. We'll build a better one. Matteo stood beside her, bleeding and silent. For once, he did not reach for control. He simply waited. Nora looked at him. The man who had lied, the man who had protected, the man who had finally learned to stand beside her instead of in front of her. Can you walk? She asked. His mouth twitched despite the pain. For you? Nora lifted her chin. For Lily. His expression softened. For Lily, he said. Nora walked past Victor without lowering her eyes. Matteo followed beside her. Not in front, not behind. Beside her, and as they stepped out into the snow, every camera turned toward the woman who had just burned an empire from the hallway of a ruined apartment building. The snow outside Marcy's building fell softer after the sirens faded. By dawn, the street was lined with police cars. Federal vans, news trucks, and neighbors wrapped in blankets, staring at the ruins as if the whole city had finally admitted what had been rotting beneath it. Nora stood across the street with Lily asleep in her arms. Her daughter's face was tucked into her neck, one hand still gripping Mr. Rabbit, the other curled around Nora's collar. Every few minutes, Lily would stir, whimper, and whisper, "Mommy?" And every time, Nora answered the same way. "I'm here, baby. I'm right here." The apartment was gone. The diner windows were shattered. Daniel's photo had burned. The music box was broken, but Lily was breathing. That was the only thing Nora could feel without falling apart. Across the street, Victor was pushed into a black federal vehicle with his wrists cuffed behind him. Cameras flashed against his face. Reporters shouted his name. Men who had once feared him now stood far away, pretending they had never known him. Victor turned once before they forced him inside. His eyes found Nora. For the first time, there was no smile, no threat, no control, only hatred. Nora held his gaze until the door slammed shut. Then she looked away first, not because she was afraid, because he no longer deserved to be the last thing she saw. A paramedic tried again to guide Matteo toward an ambulance. Matteo refused. Of course he did. He stood near the curb, pale from blood loss, black shirt torn at the shoulder, one hand pressed against his wound, watching Nora and Lily as if distance itself was punishment. Enzo argued with him in a low voice. Matteo ignored him. Nora sighed, shifted Lily carefully in her arms, and walked over. "You're going to bleed onto the sidewalk until you collapse?" Matteo's tired eyes lifted to hers. "I've survived worse." That wasn't an answer. "No." She stared at him. He stared back. Then, finally, the corner of his mouth moved. "I'll get in the ambulance." "Good. For 10 minutes. Matteo. For 20. Nora almost smiled. Almost. Lily stirred against her shoulder, blinking sleepily. When she saw Matteo, her small face crumpled. "Are you going away?" Something in Matteo's expression broke. "No, little moon," he said softly. "Not unless your mother tells me to." Lily looked at Nora. Nora did not answer right away, because the truth was not simple. Matteo had lied. He had watched. He had protected her from a world he should have told her existed. But he had also stood between Lily and a gun. He had handed Nora the truth instead of taking it. He had learned, painfully and too late, that protection without choice was just another kind of cage. Nora looked at him. "I don't know what happens next." Matteo nodded once. "Then I wait. You don't get to decide our life. I know. You don't get to buy safety with silence. I know. You don't get to stand in front of me unless I ask." His eyes softened. "I know." Lily reached one sleepy hand toward him. Matteo hesitated, looking at Nora first. That small pause mattered. Nora nodded. He took Lily's hand gently, as if it were something holy. Lily whispered, "Daddy called me Little Moon." Matteo swallowed hard. "Yes," he said, "he did." "Did he love Mommy?" Matteo looked at Nora. The snow gathered in her hair. Smoke stained her coat. Her eyes were red, exhausted, and stronger than anything he had ever seen. More than his own life, Matteo said. Nora's throat tightened. For the first time that night, she let herself cry without hiding it. Not loud, not broken, just enough for the grief to breathe. Weeks later, Nora and Lily moved into a small house with yellow curtains and a lock. Nora chose herself. No envelope appeared under the door. No stranger paid the rent. The deed was in Nora's name. Matteo came sometimes, always after calling first, always standing on the porch until she opened the door. He brought no expensive gifts, no grand apologies wrapped in money. Only coffee, groceries, a repaired music box with a new painted moon on top, and patience. One evening, Lily fell asleep on the couch while snow tapped softly against the windows. Nora stood in the kitchen holding Daniel's bracelet in her palm. Matteo stood beside the doorway, not entering, waiting. Nora looked at him and said, "You can come in." He did, slowly, carefully, like a dangerous man learning how to be gentle. And for the first time in 6 years, Nora did not feel watched. She felt seen.